Hello friends, and welcome back to the Hall of Craft! I'm back with another video for you guys. So I have made these big chunky Runehammer Inspired Terrain Boards in the past, and these things are great. They have a nice carved grid on them, they're big, they're durable, and they look good. We love Runehammer here, and he has brought a lot to the community with this idea. But I think I can add a little bit more to it, and also kind of combine it with some other ideas that I've seen here on YouTube. So my big problem with these boards is that over the years and over my various apartment moves, the corners have gotten quite dinged up, and the XPS foam underneath gets exposed quite easily, kind of compromising your paint job. And that's just to do with the fact that they have these really vulnerable corners to them. So I figured that one thing I could do to instantly upgrade the quality of the Runehammer boards is to kind of smush them together and combine them with Professor Dungeon Master's Ultimate Dungeon Terrain, little dungeon pizza as it's known in the community, method. I think I can kind of combine those two things to create some much nicer and much more reliable and safe boards for myself. So I think that by combining these two ideas and doing it now as the Alistair of the future, who's a much better crafter than the Alistair of the past, I think I can create myself some nice, beautiful, durable, long-lasting terrain boards. So the plan here is I'm going to create 3 boards, each roughly about 2 foot in diameter, and I'm going to make them double-sided. That way I can have 6 biomes ready to go whenever I need them. And because my channel kind of functions as an archive of crafting tutorials, I'm not going to smush all of these into one video. I'm going to give each biome its own video, and I'm going to put them in a playlist that you can find here in the top right if you're watching this after it's posted. I'm going to put them all there together so that if you need to find a certain biome at a glance, it's right there and you don't need to watch through a 40-minute video to dig for the information you're looking for. So if you want to skip this intro after watching it for the 5th time, I'll make sure that I put bars in the bottom so everything is clearly labeled. For this video, I'm going to be doing the desert board. So to start out with this one, I just take a piece of string, a screw, and a Sharpie. And by placing the screw in the middle and wrapping the string around the Sharpie, I will draw a circle as big as I can on my 2 foot by 8 foot and 2 inch thick sheet of blue XPS foam. This stuff is great, you can just get it at the hardware store. And so one of the awesome things about the Runehammer terrain is that it is 2 inches thick, and this foam facilitates that. I know that some versions of the UDT or the Dungeon Pizza go a little thinner, a little bit more flat, but for this it's actually really important that we use the 2 inch thick because it'll facilitate the double-sided nature of these boards. I would not suggest using the thinner stuff, especially on the swamp or the lava boards. That's right, we're going to be making a lava board later. Once that's drawn, it's time to cut. For this, I'll just cut as close to the circle as I can with a big knife, and then once I'm partially through the foam, I'll snap it over my knee. This gives me a much more manageable chunk. Once I have that chunk, I'll take it over to my Proxon and use it to cut off the corners. You could do this with a knife, it'll just take a lot more time and you'll have to be a lot more patient. I have the Proxon, so I use it here because it saves me so much and it gives me a really nice smooth cut. Now it's time to draw the grid. For this, I just use a tape measure to find the center and then a triangle to square it up. From there, you can just mark out all of the inch marks with a pen, and it's just a matter of connecting the dots from here on out. You can skip this step if you don't like playing with grids, but on these boards I find them pretty subtle in the end after all the texturizing and other elements we add to it, and personally as a DM I find the grid very helpful on the table to just see things at a quick glance. The last thing I'm going to do to all of the boards is just take a sanding block and smooth the rough edge that I cut with the Proxon. Because I'm treating these like double-sided boards, I'm treating this edge almost like the base rim on a mini, and I'd like it to be as clean as possible. Okay, so the desert board begins with a good smashing from the dumbbell. This gives us a good cracked, dry looking texture to build on in the future. Once that's finished, I'm going to use my knife to do some nice shallow cuts along the grid marks that we marked on already. After those are cut, I'm going to use a sculpting tool and a pencil, running it along the lines of the grid to help define them a little bit further. Once we're finished that, I'm going to take out the heat gun, and then on medium heat, I'm just going to run that across the surface of the board. This will help create more of like a nice hard plasticky texture for the top of the board, but it'll also really open up all of those cracks and make it look nice and dry. Once we're finished with that, it's time to paint. To base coat this whole thing, I'm going to use a mix of burnt umber paint with Mod Podge, and that'll give us a really nice texture to put all of our paint on top of moving forward. To add the sand texture to this thing, I'm just going to mix up some baking soda, some white glue, and some golden brown paint, and I'm going to just slop that over the entire surface of the board. This looks a little dramatic when you put it on, but it dries much kind of shallower than it looks while it's wet and lets that texture kind of show through. After that's completely dry, I'm going to paint the surface with a big floppy makeup brush. I'm going to start this out with a golden brown dry brush. I'll follow that up by mixing in some vanilla and some yellow and kind of dusting randomly the surface with that. And then after you're finished with that, you just mix in more vanilla to brighten it up, and keep doing that, repeating that until you are happy with the brightness of the board. Once that's finished, just to cover the surface with a nice healthy coat of matte varnish. This will protect it from wear and tear on the table. The last thing you need to do to this board is just repaint that rim with more black paint and Mod Podge, just to clean up any areas that kind of got touched while working on it. Just make sure that it's a nice black rim. The Mod Podge will also help kind of like protect it a little bit better and smooth it out a little bit more. And with that, it's finished. Let's take a look at how it turned out. All right, there we have it. Double-sided terrain boards. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. A bit more of a simpler one than I've been doing lately, but sometimes it's nice to go back to the basics, and for me personally, it just feels good to have a nice staple in my collection that I know I can rely on. If you'd like to check out all of these other terrain board building videos, I will put a link to the playlist in the top right. I also have plenty of other terrain crafting and miniature painting videos that you can check out while you wait for the next one. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good week, everyone.